Hi, everyone. My name is Edwin, and I'd like to share my story with you. It's about how I found out that my wife had been cheating on me and eventually took my revenge on her. I and Lily, my wife, have been married for the past 3 years now. We had dated for over a year before we got married. She was a high school teacher then, and I was a factory worker. After we tied the knot, I moved on to some other things. But she remained and continued with her teaching job. Most often than not, I do take her to school and also find time to go pick her up from school based on the love we shared. I rarely would not do that, and it would simply imply I was out of town or totally indisposed. On one occasion, I drove all the way from a trip I embarked upon to her school, considering that the time I returned coincided with her closing time. But most importantly, we had an occasion to attend towards the evening of that day. It was the baby shower of my third younger sister, Lizzie, a lady I cherished so much. Lizzie had been expecting for almost forever, and she had kept on bordering on me about her ordeals. So I was glad when she broke the news a few weeks ago that she was pregnant. So we had to go join family and friends to express our joy of the pregnancy, and to also present our little gift and best wishes before the child arrived. When I arrived at Lily's school, I gently parked in the parking lot and gave her a call to let her know I was around to pick her up. She was surprised and excited at the same time at how I was able to make it back from the trip within a short time, and she told me she'd be with me in a jiffy. I decided to remain in the car and wait for her. While I sat waiting, I tuned into the radio and listened to the news and some music. And suddenly, through my windshield, I noticed a young teenage student named Justin, one of my wife's favorite students that I also liked and had related with on several occasions, holding up his phone and filming something across a hidden passage. He appeared so thrilled and excited while doing that. I could see him giggle and grin as he went on filming the passage at close range. After watching him for a while, I got a little bit curious and decided to find out what was making him chuckle and giggle in such a silly and funny way. So I got out of the car and approached him to find out for myself. I was really distraught by what I found out. It turned out that Justin was filming 2 teachers who were having sex in this hidden passage that was completely hidden from everyone's view, but had a clear view from where Justin was standing. Justin was all out, having the time of his life just doing that. And I got upset by both him and the teachers, but more especially the teachers, who couldn't exercise some level of self-control and restraint, but went ahead to wash their dirty linen in the open, and glaring eyes of those smart and mischievous students thinking they'd not be seen. I got mad at Justin, but he wouldn't budge. He kept on filming them, and when I confronted him, he told me he was filming them in order to finally publish the video on the internet through one of his friends who was good on social media. He was to publish it on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, as most, if not all, of the students in that school would get to see the video through any of those platforms, but especially TikTok and YouTube. I got really worried by that development and idea, and I wondered what had informed all of that. It appeared to me that it was a recurrent decimal in that school, and the students had it for fun. Funny enough, Lily never discussed anything of that nature with me before. Immediately, I felt like approaching those clueless and carefree teachers to give them the warning of their lives. But I realized both of them were married people, so I thought they should know better. I changed my mind and went ahead to only warn Justin to be careful and warn Claire of whatever was not of his business before he lands himself in trouble. And I then walked back to my car. Almost immediately, I noticed Lily coming out of the school premises to meet me. Then I saw her call another student to talk to him. I got curious and walked down to meet them. I noticed she was only rebuking him out of love for his misbehavior, and that is one of the good virtues I really loved and appreciated in Lily. Even when she finds something wrong, she tends to approach it with a collected and compassionate mindset, eventually making something good and positive out of it. I really cherished that virtue in her. When she was done, we walked down to the car and drove straight to my sister's baby shower. We had one of the best times of our lives, and I assured Lily that she was next in line. A few months later, I was beginning to get bordered for waiting for so long without the blessing of our matrimony. I was really wondering what could possibly be wrong. And that was the same feeling Lily had. But I summoned up courage and asked her to go for a pregnancy test one more time, almost 6 weeks after she had an IVF, and she visited a medical facility for the test. The next day, I was at my office when the doctor called to inform me that he had tried to reach Lily, but she wasn't picking up her calls, so he decided to contact me since she also provided my number when she went for the test the previous day. He gladly announced that Lily was already 1 month pregnant. I couldn't contain my joy. I shouted and screamed aloud to the hearing of everyone, and I wasn't bordered. Immediately, I got into my car, rushed to the facility, got the test results, and turned back to go tell Lily the good news. Driving happily on the smooth and silky way that leads to our home, I began to reminisce on all the ugly experiences we've had trying to conceive for the past 3 years. We've gone for all kinds of tests, taken different kinds of medications, and been checked by different qualified doctors, but we still could not ascertain the reason behind Lily's inability to conceive. As a matter of fact, I had spent a fortune trying IVF, and this was the third and final time I had to try it, because my insurance could not cater for anything more than that. Then, boom, it happened. All our sufferings, frustrations, and disappointments abruptly came to an end when the doctor put that beautiful call across that fateful day. I drove in a way I had never driven before. I'm sorry to say this, but I really went off the speed limits and attempted to bite the traffic as I hastened up to break the news to Lily, who I knew must be at home tutoring at that time, to not announce my arrival because I wanted to take her by surprise. I decided to park my car a little distance away from the house and walk down. When I got close to the house, I decided to peep through the window to know exactly where she could possibly be within the house. I had really wanted the surprise to be that effective, but I was terribly disappointed by what I saw. It really sent some shivers down my spine and made me want to scream like a lunatic. Lily had left tutoring her teenage student and instead retired with him into the living room, letting him touch her inappropriately all over her body. I stood there, overwhelmed, and watched in shock and surprise as they passionately carried on for a while, kissing and caressing each other. Then I decided to go into the house through the back door to confront both of them, find out what the rationale behind their actions was, and possibly get to know if it was a one-off thing that just happened that day. But I was thrown overboard when I realized that before I could turn around to gain access through the back door, Lily was already on top of her teenage student, and they went on hard without a care in the world. My anger boiled like wildfire, and I immediately knew this was not a one-time affair. It appeared to me that they've been on it for only God knows how long. I felt like squeezing both of them to death with my bare hands as I stood in front of the door of the living room without their notice. I wondered at how low Lily had brought herself to sleep with her 17-year-old teenage student, and I could only watch with repulsion. This chap happens to be Justin's classmate, and Lily had been their chemistry teacher. And unfortunately, the chemistry she's been teaching them is now exploding on my face, and stands the chance of exploding on all of her students' faces and the entire school within a short while. I kind of restrained and controlled my anger while I thought of the best ways I could take revenge on her madness and stupidity. Quickly, I decided to tiptoe out of the house since they never noticed my presence. I pulled out my phone and texted Justin, asking him to hurry up and come down to my house. When I noticed he was seemingly taking a long time to show up, I decided to call him, and he told me he was right in front of my house. I quickly told him to maintain some silence and not ring the bell. I was really upset and had decided to nail Lily hard to the ground. After all we've been through, after spending almost everything I had in our relationship and eventually the marriage, investing heavily in her health issues just to see that she conceives, I couldn't just believe that this was how she was going to pay me back. I just couldn't imagine myself letting her get away with this atrocious act. And I decided I was going to see through it and make sure I took my full revenge on her, and I'll do it in a way I won't be blamed for anything. So, I told Justin to tiptoe into the living room to make a recording of the scenario, while I hid behind the door to watch how he would execute the task. Justin got into the living room and just filmed for 1 or 2 minutes, then proceeded to meet Lily and her lover. Suddenly, they realized he was in the room, and even though she looked alarmed, Lily never cared to cover her nakedness before Justin. It appeared to me she'd been having the same affair with him, and so it meant nothing to her. I began to get worried that my revenge plan had been thwarted by that development. But something even more shocking happened. When Lily noticed he had recorded the scene where she had fun with her student lover, she decided to play a fast one on him. She offered him the same offer and asked him to immediately delete the recording from his phone. I was dazed and disappointed at the same time when Justin sheepishly agreed to the deal and deleted the recordings in order to have fun with Lily. It appeared my revenge plot was under severe attack, but I refused to give up. I watched as Justin pulled off his clothes like a lunatic and clung to Lily, and they both swung into action like a loose cannon. Both students had Lily, and I began to doubt if I married a human or a dog. Repulsed beyond comprehension, I decided to act fast by locking the back door so that none of them could get out of the house. While I was making my way to get that done, I noticed Lily's phone lying idle on the table, and I quickly took it and recorded all of them as they had fun. Without wasting time any further, I sent the video to Justin's dad, who was very influential, but also brutal and abusive when it came to doling out discipline. It happened that Justin's mom was late, and so his dad was very strict and rigid with him. I also sent the video to the mom of Lily's 17-year-old affair partner, asking them to please come over to the house to see things for themselves. Surprisingly, which in my opinion shouldn't be a surprise for any well-meaning and concerned parent, they both obliged to come over as soon as they could. I don't know how it all played out, but within a matter of a few minutes, they told me they were both in front of my house. Prior to their arrival, I had instructed them to maintain silence and come through the back door that I sneakily reopened. I sent them some thought, provoking emojis in the process, which I believe spurred them to action. They came with 2 police officers and got in through the back door to the living room to find their teenage boys on the bed with Lily. All of a sudden, a huge pandemonium broke out in the house and the entire neighborhood. Both parents humiliated Lily by shouting at her and calling her all sorts of names. I stood by a corner and watched with pleasure how things were panning out. The mom of Lily's 17-year-old affair partner slapped her heavily on the face, and they started a fight. Within a flip of a second, she got Lily on her back and sat on her stomach. Quickly, the police officers intervened and got Lily back on her feet. But this time around, they made me even happier when they put their shiny silvery handcuffs on her hands and handled her like a hardened criminal. The banter and rantings from both parents continued, and soon enough, it created a scene in the neighborhood. While all that was on, my eyes met Lily's eyes, and I smiled and made some gestures to mock her, as if to say, "Hope you like my return gift." When she noticed I'd set her up, she started shedding profuse tears. Soon enough, the police grabbed her by the arms to get away with her, and she started crying aloud. I immediately told the police officers to allow her to read the test results I was holding in my hands before they made off with her, and I threw the test results at her and walked away. I could see her regretting her actions. I guess she wished she never cheated on me the way she did. When she was done reading the test results, she broke into a loud cry, lamenting so badly for bringing this whole thing on herself. It dawned on her that she would soon be losing out on her beloved and faithful husband, who had been there for her all through her difficult moments, especially when she was trying so hard to conceive. It was clear to her that she had potentially become a single mother who would eventually go through the pains and rigors of pregnancy, all alone, and probably in jail. She kept on crying and sobbing while the police made off with her. Soon enough, the news of the development began to spread like wildfire. A rumor began to spread all over town that all the female teachers in that school slept with their teenage male students, and almost immediately, concerned parents began to withdraw their kids from the school, and they suffered a great deal in trying to admit and retain most of their students. The school's brand and reputation kept sliding down drain, and they soon became moribund. Prior to all of these, all the students involved were questioned profusely, tested for various things, and had to attend therapy sessions often for a long time. But Justin and his friend were expelled from the school, and their parents had to go through hell to get them into another school. More so, their reputations were badly damaged among their friends and associates. Finally, Lily was tried in court and found guilty. She was sentenced to 8 years imprisonment with hard labor. When she was escorted by the prison wardens to their van in order to be conveyed to the prison yard, she looked at me and cried profusely, begging me to listen to her for once. But I could only look at her with hate and disgust, and off she was carted away to the prison. While she served her term, I learned she went through a hard time during the first trimester of the pregnancy. When she got into the second trimester, she had a serious complication that posed a threat to her life. After a careful examination and diagnosis by one of the in-house doctors, she confirmed the baby's death and ordered an immediate evacuation procedure. The unborn child was eventually evacuated, but the procedure took its toll on her. She had a uterine perforation that made her bleed profusely and lose a lot of blood. She finally got infected and suffered from an embolism. Meanwhile, her name was now listed on the list of sexual offenders, implying she couldn't work in the education sector again, even after she got out of jail. I learned that she became a freelancer and also sold her courses online. Immediately after Lily went to jail, I got lonely, but I wasn't really missing her. I wanted to find love somewhere else. But I had become overly skeptical, fearing I might just hook up with someone else who might even be worse than Lily. All the same, I hooked up with a loving lady I met in the course of my work, and we eventually got married. I have lived with her for over a decade now, and we have a 9-year-old son together. I went to pick him up from school one day, and whilst I stood at the gate to wait for him, I reminisced on all I went through after I divorced Lily, and how, on many occasions, I'd return home completely drunk and helpless, all in an attempt to get over Lily's betrayal and disloyalty. Luckily for me, my beloved sister and some of my family members came to my rescue. Now I am happily married and am really grateful for all that has transpired. I am also grateful to Lily, who taught me never to blindly love people and just easily give them my heart. I had really hoped I had finally gotten a true and chaste wife, and I think I might just be correct. We've been married for close to a decade now, and our love and loyalty for each other only increase by the day.